All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to session 11 of the Eugene Review Panel. Very nice to have you all. And once again, I think we have everybody, or just about, missing one person still, but I'm sure they'll come on in a few minutes. Today, we're going to be continuing from where we left off on Tuesday, and let me remind you where that is. So we're in this piece up here in February, still working on HB 2001 today, picking up from the information, all that sort of massive amount of detail from the technical experts on Tuesday, and now digging into some of these important kind of specific questions that the city has related to these code trade-offs. So we'll dig into that, and then we'll just be starting just a little bit of this red section down here, talking about general public engagement recommendations. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later in the day. Let's not get to that just yet. I'm going to stick with the just thinking about HB 2001 still, and the work that you have been working on so far, the question that you've been working on so far. Specifically, I just want to point your attention to a couple of things in your packet. So if everybody can find the paper that we sent you last week, a few things in here will be important for today. One of them is your own guiding principles, which I think, I want to say were originally on the top of the packet. You know what that looks like. It says Eugene Review Panel on it. So you'll spend just a few minutes in small groups just refreshing on what some of the top principles were that you identified back in December, because they might now be relevant to your recommendations to the city on these specific issues. They don't necessarily have to be, but if you can reference them, well, that'll make your argument even a bit stronger. And the more that you can reference the information that you've learned or learned from each other or outside sources, that'll make any of your statements stronger as well. So the moderators will be encouraging that. The other piece of paper that I wanted to point your attention toward is the survey. It says survey in the top left. You probably looked at this last time, I think, or maybe you've already completed it online. If you did, that's perfectly fine. No worries at all. That was your sort of individual entry to the survey, your individual opinion. We're going to be using those same questions today, but it's going to be a more in-depth discussion than any of us can do by ourselves, probably. I mean, I talk to myself quite a bit, but, relatively speaking. And it'll be kind of the collective opinion of the panel. And let me just talk a little bit about how that's going to happen. It's going to be fairly simple. You're going to be in a small group, and each group is assigned one of these questions to start off with. So you'll be working on the question after you've reviewed your principles that you wrote in December. You'll be reviewing what the question is, reading it, making sure you understand it. Again, as before, don't be afraid to ask questions about it of your fellow panel members. This is your opportunity to benefit from the wisdom in the group. But also, we do have a member of city staff here tonight again, Sophie McGinley, who is standing by to answer any sort of pressing questions that your fellow group members can't answer or where there's disagreement. So if you do have clarifying questions about any of the technical aspects of the question that you're working on, your moderators will send out a little signal into the ether, and we will send Sophie your way. So in those groups, you will look at what the question is and think about your response to the question in 4 different categories. So let me just show what that looks like really quick. Go. And share again. All right, there we go. So your moderator will have this on screen. And these are sort of the four, well, those first three are the three categories that you heard a lot about last time. Sort of the way, the framework that the city has set up to understand what should just be allowed, what should be encouraged, and what should be incentivized as sort of levels of importance to make whatever the thing is happen. And you'll be putting down in each of these columns reasons why the city should encourage. So you don't have to decide between them, allow, encourage, or incentivize. You don't have to decide between them, and there may be differing views in the group, and that's perfectly fine. Your moderator will note down, make some short notes about whatever anybody says, and so be sure to tell them which column you think it goes in. And if it doesn't go in any, or like, I don't know, this is just sort of a general thought related to this question, that's cool. That's why there's a fourth general notes column, so it'll go over there. The other thing that you'll be doing in these groups is identifying when one of those notes, one of those reasons, one of those opinions is something that's really important. To pick out key points why the city should do whatever you're telling them they should do. And your moderator will note when this happens by bolding or underlining or italicizing what the thing is. And they'll ask for the rest of the group to, do you agree with that? So when somebody says something, wait for them to finish talking, but then come right in and say, oh, that was a great point. That should be one of our key points. So help identify what those key points are, and your moderators will help with that too. And they'll then ask, okay, who agrees with that? Anybody disagree with that as being like a really top point? And if somebody does, that's okay. If a couple people do, that's okay. If a number of people do, well, then it's not going to get bolded. But if there's overwhelming support for that, then it will get bolded. So it's not a strict vote, but it's going to be just a feeling of the group. Is there overwhelming support? We sometimes call this consensus -2. So not consensus. It doesn't need to be consensus in order to get bolded, but it does need to have support of almost all the group in general in order to be noted as something and this is a really key important thing that your group thinks should be noted. And let me tell you what happens, why we're doing that. So the next group will come, and you can see how this is going to work. You're going to rotate, and you're going to look. Now this group is going to go and look at question 2 now, right? And you're going to see the things that were bolded by the previous group. And the place where you're going to start is say, okay, let's look at those things that were bolded. Do we agree with any of those? And if you do, and you think, yeah, that one is really key. That one, we should lend our voice to that one too. Endorse that one too. Then your moderator will put another mark, an underline under the bold. And that's how we'll tell whether more than one group has agreed with whatever the thing is that you've noted, whatever the rationale is for why the city should do one of those things. And then at the end of today, we're going to put all these notes together, and we're going to order them by how much support they had. So the ones where, and you're going to go 3 different groups. So you're going to do this 3 times, so that the statements that have 3 different groups saying, yes, this is a key point, very, very important, then those will rise to the top. Those will be at the top of the report. Then the ones where it was just 2 groups that said, yes, this is very important, well, those will come next. If there's just 1 group that said, yes, this was very important, then that'll come next. And the rest of the things where it was just, nobody said this was absolutely important, but it was just a comment that somebody made, those will still be in the report. They'll just be at the bottom. And if that doesn't make sense, I know that was a little bit complicated. Follow the crowd here. Your moderators know what's happening, and they'll tell you what to do at every stage. So don't sweat it if that was a bit confusing. I just want to put it out there and your moderators will repeat it again in a minute. I just wanted to note one other thing before we go into groups here, which is just looked at the survey. Thanks so much for folks taking the survey. Overwhelmingly positive. I think the most positive responses so far. You all were really excited to be back and see each other, and a few of you noted that. Somebody noted, yeah, how fun it was to sort of dig deep into the information, and somebody else noted that their views on the issue had changed a little bit over time, and they're really happy to hear from other folks in the room that had changed their opinion. So that's cool, and maybe there'll be more of that tonight. So great. I think that's all I have to say. Alex, is there anything that I'm missing?
No, I don't think so.
Super. Let's go